Most parents are wary of the so-called heavy metal music.
Salut à tous, METALXS, c'est l'essentiel de l'actualité métal et dérivé en quelques minutes, le tout en images, en musique et en interview. METALXS est une exclusivité RIFFX by Crédit Mutuel, la plateforme de toutes les musiques, tous les talents en partenariat avec Art Force. C'est parti! Deux ans après l'incroyable Dance Devil Dance, Avatar revient avec Don't Go in the Forest, un 10e album qui repousse une fois de plus toutes les limites du métal traditionnel. Entre rage, lyrisme et théâtralité, soufflant de la mélodie sur un death metal absolument pas conventionnel, Johannes Eckerström incarne toutes les facettes du monstre Avatar, intense et cinématographique. METALXS a rencontré le chanteur à Paris et vous invite à emprunter le chemin de cette nouvelle folie. Mais au fait, que doit-on redouter si on s'aventure dans la forêt?
Well, one way of looking at it, and one of the reasons we ended up naming the album, is it went along with this kind of vision we got of the way I see it is ideally it would have been filmed by David Lynch, but there's an idea like in Twin Peaks, you know, that out there in the woods you have the portal into the Black Lodge, right? So there's this idea, this image of you being lost in the woods at night. It's cold, it's wet, you're alone, you're afraid, and between the trees somewhere over there's light and there's faint music, and as you approach you see in a meadow a little circus tent that shouldn't be there, but it is. And it kind of feels like something that, a way to describe what Avatar is.
L'album ressemble à un voyage dans les profondeurs de la psychologie humaine.
The beginning of any idea, anything creative, that's, you know, kind of comes from the subconscious, and it's a kind of abstract train of thought that leads you to what you actually end up creating, right? And the idea is you basically, you know, you dive into that dark lake, you swim to the bottom, and in the mud you find something. You swim back to the surface, you come to the beach, and you start looking at it. What is this? What could this become? What does it mean? And you want to figure it out immediately and figure it out and then do the rest. So that could be 2 lines of lyrics or that guitar riff or whatever. That's just like, what is this? What can we do? All of that. So but this time, you know, I stayed in the water longer. That I would trust my subconscious in that that the only sense that I was looking for while writing would be that sense of beauty. And once it's done, you know, it's kind of, oh, there it is. And it's revealed itself to me. So because of that, I think some of the songs certainly feel a bit more surreal. There are things that I borrowed from dreams I've had. And that style of writing. So with the idea that hopefully, you know, every album we have done has been all about trying to be as honest as possible and genuine as possible. But then after you revealed some truth to yourself about, you know, whatever it happened to be at that point in life, there's always another layer of bullshit that you can remove. And letting the subconscious speak more freely felt like yet another step to remove another filter and find another degree of honesty.
L'écriture se produit-elle chez lui sur le long terme ou s'impose-t-elle uniquement lorsqu'un nouvel album doit sortir?
And for many years now, I feel like it's just an ongoing thing. And you just, at some point, you start ramping up intensity after a while. But I mean, I think we're all kind of always more or less noodling around on a guitar or some other instrument, or and you get inspired whenever, and you collect little ideas. And then I think at some point you kind of get to the time to get serious and start to be more focused about it. And maybe the more important part about being focused will be that you start showing each other ideas. So there's a part of it that is kind of free play that I think for me goes back to way before there even was a band, from being a kid and learning, I had piano lessons and you do your little homework, but then you start moving your hands around and nothing has really changed in that kind of playing with your instruments for your own pleasure. But really, but then kind of it becomes more concrete over time. So the whole writing happens a little bit all the time, kind of, and then you ramp up and become more focused. But then this album, like every other album, it is more figure it out as you go. Let's see what happens. And that always kind of happens as a reaction to whatever came before, that usually started out or with a plan, or the plan came together a bit earlier. Avatar Country obviously was super much, we had a plan what it was gonna be because of the whole Jonas was the king in Avatar Country and all that. So that made it Hunter Gatherer, therefore became a reaction to that. Number one, we didn't want any jokes, we didn't want to joke around on that one. We needed something else, but also we just wanted to kind of see where things went, and the red thread and the themes, came together as we worked on them. That in turn made that Dance Devil Dance. There the plan and vision came much earlier in the process, where we the whole satanic thing and the whole rock and roll thing was a directness that we wanted then. But since we felt that we nailed it, since we feel like that went great, then it becomes, we're not bored with the songs when we play them on stage, but you're kind of bored from a creative side, like to work like that. We did an album like that, so we feel we're done. On to the next thing. And this album was again one that revealed itself over time.
Dans quel état d'esprit se trouve-t-il au moment de la sortie d'un album?
Now doing interviews, I get to live in this very nice bubble where it seems like we have made the greatest album of all time. I mean, we have. But that being said, once the album comes out and you wake up the next morning and the earth is still turning in the same direction and, fish still swim and birds still fly, they didn't switch places, so the world is normal. And that's kind of, we go, okay, let's make another one.
Un titre comme Take This Heart and Burn It rappelle des sonorités comme celle de Hail the Apocalypse.
That was one of those intuitive dream songs. But the very first thing I had was that melody, which was kind of, it's almost like a Western bastardization of something that to me felt Persian. Because I had the first version of that, I recorded that on a demo, had a clean guitar, rhythm guitar underneath it that went dum bum 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 bum. So I really came from a place of fucking around with something, from a different part of the world and getting inspired by that. But it's funny, when you look at the actual scales being used and stuff, that's normal harmonic minor, but somehow it pulled me towards the Middle East to some degree. And I always and it was something, especially with the guitars being played like in octaves like that I didn't do the typical lead guitar playing in thirds, harmonizing with it, that made it sound to me very aggressive, or like I don't like one of those melodies that is almost, you can see imagine a kid going la 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 la, like in your face with it. And that's over time bled into the whole idea of doing something that, you know, more intense drums and a way more aggressive thing with it. And it grew from there. The chorus went through. There was a completely different vocal melody for it that when you sometimes you forget all the music you've heard. So sometimes you write something that gets a bit close to something that is already out there, and that melody, someone in the band pointed out, that's kind of the villagers in Beauty and the Beast when when the mob is being formed with Gaston to go and kill the Beast in the animated 90s version of the film. I'm like, whoops. But the chord progression was also very inspired by Balkan music that I've heard. So there are a lot of old-fashioned parts to the song, and it really becomes a weave between all this kind of. Yeah, it's a very globally inspired song, and also to have that dum ba dum bum bum ba dum kind of drums. So it's a bit from all over the place, and finding ways to use those kind of inspirations, turning it something very aggressive, and so very fun to write from that standpoint. And then when it came to the lyrics, I have had this strange dream that I don't put a lot of meaning to dreams. Aside from, if you have a very tough period of your life, you probably will have more bad dreams, more and stuff like that. But overall, the brain's gonna do what the brain's gonna do. But there's something to a dream when it's very vivid nonetheless. And I just remember, because it was a dream, I'm always able to fly in my dreams. And I'm flying, and I'm flying over a Caribbean island that has a lagoon, and in the lagoon I see dead bodies under this crystal clear shallow water, and I see three pilots, but with Air Force uniforms. So not commercial pilots, but military pilots that have drowned all around this island on the way in. And then the island is full of naked people, and and there was something about secrets or hiding away there, or what was going on away there, almost like a forbidden place. And then one of the women who was there was naked. She had tan lines, and that made it, her secret was given away in the sense that it showed that she was new there and didn't know what she was doing, because everyone else who was naked on the island, men and women, of course were evenly tanned. But she wasn't, so she was new there. And then more weird things happened. So my dad always said it's very rude to tell people about your dreams. That is one of the most boring subjects. But right after he said that, he would always tell us about a dream he had. So we're all hypocrites. But that to just as a starting point, those weird, the drowned bodies and everything, this strange place, to have that as a starting place, and the things that happen in the dream, and let the subconscious write the lyrics. That was I guess that was that song, more or less.
On est toujours admiratif devant l'étendue vocale de Johannes. Sur Dance, Devil Dance, il avait exploré les notes les plus hautes. A-t-il approfondi d'autres aspects de son chant sur ce disque?
One of the places it came from, it comes, I get inspired from all kinds of things, but one thing that always inspires me, I can listen to Judas Priest every day, and in periods I do. When writing songs, I always find myself ending up kind of studying Judas Priest, especially when you really lost yourself in the process, and sometimes kind of go, oh yeah, but what is heavy metal? And you kind of free will burning, you're like, oh yeah, that's heavy metal. And as when it comes to being influenced from people like Rob Halford, right? We always, when you say that, we tend to first and foremost think of, Painkiller, Screaming for Vengeance, high notes, the falsetto, but the old guard of heavy metal music, I think, where they came from connects more with what happened before. You know, because they didn't have as many heavy metal bands. Rob Halford couldn't grow up listening to Judas Priest. And also same with Black Sabbath. And in the case of Black Sabbath, I was reading this, one of the thousands of articles about them I read, and someone talked about the music being a blend. You always talk about the heavy blues, you know, blues turning heavier over the course of the 60s. You talk about the British invasion, you know, the Stones and the Beatles and those things. And you talk about psychedelic rock of the 60s when you talk about how metal became metal. But this article, that was the first time I remember someone mentioning soul music. And there's something clicked for me when understanding what heavy metal is and where it comes from, because that is where, you know, the big emotion, the loudness, you know, the up tempos, the kind of belting it out, that's so many of those things that then can be ascribed also to metal music you would find in the 60s and a lot of soul. Just that with the older stuff, people sang the lyrics way more. And take Ozzy Osbourne, you know, that I think people underestimate how good, even people who love Ozzy Osbourne, I think underestimate how good he actually was. Because he had this unique charisma, unique voice, and this larger-than-life persona while feeling so much of like himself, all those intangibles, all those talents that you cannot really teach anyone. Ozzy had all of that. So we kind of forget what he was actually really good at, and the best at. And that is kind of what you would hear in old soul music. Because soul lyrics, what is that? It's like, baby don't leave me, or my baby left me, or my baby is back and we're gonna get married. Something that when you just read the lyrics, it's not that great, you know? But when the right singer sings it and the lyrics comes to life, and that skill to really tell the story of the song, then it becomes poetry. And a lot of heavy metal stuff is just about the technical performance or the intensity of it, the aggression, which is great. But I mean, there's a reason why, you know, while so much of heavy metal is like, there's a dragon with big tits and a motorcycle driving through the war zone, yeah, you know, which is, I love it. But Ozzy Osbourne's probably biggest song is him singing, I'm going home to see my wife, and that's nice. And it becomes this huge thing. Back to Priest, because that's where I started. That can happen more with a dynamic range, and also understanding for me that things can totally be heavy metal even when I'm not always up there. You can have a bit more of a dynamic journey with it, and I mean, we have Smells Like a Freak Show on Bloody Angels, so I've kind of done that a bit, but I wanted to really explore and expand on that for me, you know, Breaking the Law. There I was completely wasted. That is a damn good heavy metal piece of vocal there. But he goes up later, you know, there's a journey, there's a little dynamic range going on. And for me, who has naturally a fairly deep voice, but when I grow up, I want to be a power metal singer. And I will never be. So I, you know, push for those things all the time, and I look for the physical intensity in music all the time. Especially Dance Devil Dance was all about, I'm gonna sweat through this album. And this time it was giving myself more space to emote, to sing the lyrics, and to make things matter once you do go up there, that it matters. So then you have a song now like Dead and Gone and Back Again, that the verses is kind of, the idea was to be a bit of a crooner, a bit of a Leonard Cohen thing, and then the pre-chorus, the chords reminded me a little bit of Careless Whispers. I wanted to be George Michael just a little bit, and then in the verses, in the choruses, there is the high shit, and you kind of go Wacken open air, you know, and stack it and harmonize and big and all that.
She got no say, it must be done some. Dead and back again, enemies make them as friends, crawling
So yeah, a bigger dynamic range, which in contrast, because this is probably the album with the least extreme vocal stuff happening, but that made it so valuable this time, that all of that matters so much, that the purpose of it really was felt, and that I suddenly had so much fun recording that, because standing there and doing the verses to Take This Heart, I just felt like, oh, I want to be in a death metal band. This is so badass. I like this so much. So yeah, it became very valuable.
5-5, 5-7, 5-10, vinkel 2, Johannes, tagning 3.
Avatar est indiscutablement un groupe à part dans le métal. Et quand le chanteur nous explique son approche de la composition, on comprend pourquoi.
I always look for a bit of change. And like I said, so Dance Devil Dance was in a way the opposite from this one, and cutting it down, getting to the point. Don't want to, you want to reach the chorus within the minute. It was about making our version of a rock and roll album. Treating heavy metal is rock and roll. Rock and roll is dance music, and that's the idea of thinking dance music gave us a little set of rules, that most of those songs stay in, that the drum beats are pretty consistent, You don't double or half the tempo or bring it down in breakdowns. There wasn't much of that. You kind of want to, if you start a song, if you want people to dance, and you play a bossa nova, you don't in the middle start playing salsa. You make one bossa nova, and then afterwards you can do a salsa song, one commit to the thing each and every time. This one, with intuitiveness, with the more, let's see where it takes us, with a surreal touch, within whatever the world of whatever Avatar is, I even dare say that there's a more progressive side to it, without being all out prog metal, So that made it all different. This album has more tempo changes, more songs that are a bit of roller coasters emotionally and stylistically. So always a bit of a reaction to whatever happened before.
Mais les riffs de guitare demeurent-ils tout de même le point de départ d'un morceau?
Yeah, I mean 99% of the time. With the exception of sometimes on a piano, but talking about influences or whatever what we do is about, the shorter list of bands I can give to kind of explain a way of thinking is Beatles and Black Sabbath. And the Black Sabbath part is that you start with a riff, but just as important, you find out what the drums are to that riff. You find out, you find that groove, and with a riff with the right grooves, once they really are locked in like this, in the best of cases, that creates an atmosphere. If again going back to a very old example now, Hail the Apocalypse, Tim came with that, and when he showed that to us, I like that immediately saw a man standing on a street corner in a big city holding up the sign that the end is near, like a doomsday prophet. And he looks up and the bombs are starting to rain down. And that was the start of those lyrics. And that is just because the sounded like a count, and when the pummeling drums, that was already there and were perfect together. And once you have that, you kind of go where the songs want to take you. And because Black Sabbath had songs that were super direct and straight, from Paranoid to Wheels of Confusion, that you can go in a very progressive way with it, and you can go very direct with it. And so many things can happen, but it can only happen once that riff, that atmosphere is locked in. So that's Sabbath. And Beatles is that the song is the most important thing about it. It's not about the part. At the end, it has to be a song. I hate that a lot of metals, especially modern metal, not all of it, but a lot of it suffers from that. It feels like it's just a bunch of stuff happening. It's bad storytelling, and this happened, and then this happened, and then this happens, rather than this happens, which leads you to this, which, that it feels motivated and it's part of a story, whether it be simple or more advanced with twists and turns. So with Beatles, it's about making songs first, and it's about making different songs every time. It's about learning something new and being excited about learning something new, because Beatles, I feel like they were always as seasoned as they became by exploring, and by also the advancement in studio technology at the time that they started utilizing and growing confidence. Something new kept on being added over the years, and new ways of doing things until the very end. So we also always try to feel like beginners. This is album number 10, but that is something we can talk about now that it's done. While we were working on it, it was not number 10, it wasn't even number 1, it was our last album, because every album is our last album until it's not. And it's the album we're doing right now with whatever we have going on right now. So yeah, Beatles and Black Sabbath.
Johannes s'est souvent inspiré de ses lectures. Est-ce le cas pour ce nouvel album?
Maybe not that directly this time. No. There was a bit of that, seeing things on TV and getting pissed off more than anything. Like the whole Death and Glitz thing, where the point being that we have a weird, perverse obsession with murder porn, with true crime podcasts and Netflix documentaries and all of that. We can't get enough with watching young women being killed. To a degree, and especially attractive young women. Murdered blondes, it's big money. And I start to think, why is that? What's going on? Because it's not just that it's horrible, because all murders are equally horrible, but we love it when a young girl goes hiking with her boyfriend and he comes back alone and she's gone and he lies about it, and we see all these pictures of how pretty she was. And I think there's something weird how we can put that dead girl on a pedestal, where we, because a dead person, she can't talk back. And this whole, in feminism, that is this, always I talk about that Madonna and whore issue or complex, where that woman is supposed to be both and neither and everything, and it's impossible to live up to that outside standard of who you're meant to be. But if you're dead, you can be anything. And I think people can have these perverse, if you're a man, you look at that like you can fantasize how you could have saved her or whatever, and if you're a woman, you can imagine, look how desirable you become afterwards. So it's sicker than any horror movie. It's sicker than anything that metalheads are accused of being, all those people enjoying that. So basically, how we love when death has a nice set of tits, it's weird. It's when you really start to watch it, and you start to, when it's children, and when cute children get murdered, people eat that shit up, and it's entertainment, because you forget about the next day. It's not that you read a study about it. It's not about the police work. No one is trying to understand the mechanisms really behind it happening. No, you just watch those events with dramatic music about cute things being destroyed, and you watch it, vaping, eating snacks. It's so not so much books maybe as terrible podcasts.
Saw you climbing out the window, took a step out of the chimney, you were floating.
La notion d'accueil du public est-elle présente lors de l'écriture, ou le groupe n'écrit-il que pour lui, sans se préoccuper de la réaction que ça engendrera à son écoute?
It's a bit of both. There's first and foremost, you write songs to an audience of 5, meaning us in the band. We are the ones who have to live with the songs forever. but then it's also, it's means of its communication. It is, we know there, it's being made to be released, and at the very least I care about if the song is supposed to communicate sadness. I want to do what I can with the song so that sadness is what resonates with you as well, hopefully, as much as possible. So, I mean, in that sense, I don't know, I like to cook, and I like to cook for friends. And I only cook food that I like. I will cook what I want to eat, but I make sure I do it in a way where also my guests will enjoy it, So in that way, and also how you serve it, and you prepare a table and everything in order for whatever you had in mind and you wanted to create, that your guest or your listener will be able to take part of it. So in that sense, there's a respect for and consideration for the receiver.
Avatar viendra en France en tête d'affiche l'année prochaine, le 2 mars à Lyon et le 7 mars à Paris. Sans tout dévoiler, à quel type de show doit-on s'attendre?
You can expect a lot of things. Of course, I could sit here now and talk about, because now they start to build. First, we had the blueprints forever. Now they start to send the photos of what the stage actually looks like when they start to build everything. And it's completely new again, and there are things done on stage that we have never done before. And there is the balance between the traditions that you build with the audience over time. I mean, yes, I will wear a red coat when I sing Blood Angel. That's just what happens. But then there's the inclusion of the new stuff and finding the right deep cuts that we haven't done in a while that makes sense, and building a larger narrative with the set list. All those things being married in there, but the thing where I feel truly, how do I say it? Where the magic maybe really happens, when all those show elements and everything is in place, is again this understanding of what sounds like a cliche in many ways is when we say that the band on stage, that's only half the show. The other half is what the audience brings in, right? And we all say that in different ways, that the singer in the interview will say something about without the audience we're nothing, which of course is obvious. But there's also, some real truth in there to be considered and to really bring in how you treat the shows and hopefully what you create with the audience. Because there is the show on stage, right? I'm there, we wear different hats and play different riffs and whatever. And then and then out there is mosh pits and sing-alongs and whatever. But the real show, there's a space between us and the audience, somewhere there in the air between us where everything meets. And if it really resonates, when you together create moments where we can all truly lose ourselves in it, and it becomes really participation. It can sound a bit wishy-washy when you say it like that, but when that happens in a show, I think we all kind of know what that means. And it's not even always that it's a whole concert, but there are those moments that you keep building towards, where there's really a sense of connection and participation, which is really at the very peak of this kind of art form, when it's a rock and roll show is interactive, as opposed to, I've seen ballet and I like it, but you sit there, it's passive, it's being delivered to you. You have nothing to do with the show. But if it's heavy metal, you have a lot to do with the show when it's at its best. And it's our job up there to harness that, to take that and give it back so they can give it back to you, and it's this feedback loop. And so the way I would say it when I was younger, it's just like we make sure that you will go fucking crazy.
Vu sa notoriété, Avatar joue en headliner, mais n'hésite jamais à saisir de belles opportunités de se produire comme invité, ce qui fut le cas avec Iron Maiden, Gojira, Slipknot par exemple, et qu'il fera avec Metallica en mai et juin prochain dans quelques pays européens.
Metallica is the band in metal. It's the biggest band ever that has come out of heavy metal. Especially if you look at the peak of their commercial success, there was nothing like they were the only heavy metal band that really was up there with in the 90s, with Backstreet Boys or whatever, that they really reached that next level where and levels beyond that. But they have managed to be that and do that while also totally being connected with where they come from. The Bay Area is still alive and well in them, I feel. And in our case, there wouldn't have been an Avatar without Metallica. Because Avatar started because John asked Jonas if he wanted to start a band. It was John's initiative. And John broke his leg when he went skiing when he was 12. And he was stuck on the bed, and because of that, his parents bought him a bunch of CDs to listen to, and Metallica was in there. And that's why John, still plays a Tama kit to this day. That's where it started. So that initial spark, that's from Metallica. So the gratitude is endless.
Avatar entretient une relation particulière avec la France. Non seulement a-t-il sorti un album live de son Download 2018 près de Paris, mais il a généreusement fait des tournées un peu partout dans l'Hexagone par le passé. Que lui vient-il en premier à l'esprit quand il pense à la France?
I don't know if there is a first thing. I think there are a lot of things because I'm a Paris head. I'm been here a lot, and also in my own time. So I've experienced and done so many things here. So I try to think. There certainly isn't a first. The last thing was that if I try to say the film title in French, I will butcher it. But that Amélie movie in the early 2000s, I was a sucker for that one. Which means that because I was in Amsterdam 2 days ago doing press, so I came here by train, which means I got off at the train station, which is very featured in the film. So I felt like a early 2000s manic pixie dream girl when I got off with my bags there. So and it looks like in the movies. So that was my last thing that happened. But then. Oh man, I had a lot of fun. We were I guess the very first time we were here, we went for beer somewhere around the Bastille, and Henrik is we're sitting at a small table, and all the bars and restaurant tables are small here for me, but Henrik is kind of tucked in the corner, and it's Winters is wearing his scarf, and his golden locks are hanging down, and a man comes up and do you want to buy roses? And I said, no, we're fine, thank you. One for the lady, and he points to Henrik who's sitting there. Looking very cool, because we're also young, and he has this angel face still. But imagine Henrik at 18. Wow, what an angel face! So he's sitting there and you call me a girl? And what else? I know. I went to Disneyland and I saw Donald Duck and I cried. So I don't know. There's a lot of things. And when it comes to shows. One of the first time that it happened that I couldn't talk because they were cheering too much, and the show stops because of the audience being so into it that you just have to wait. That happened here in Paris. It's been a lot, and and same goes for Strasbourg and Lyon and the country. This is the first country outside of the United States, which is cheating because it's huge, where we could do a sold out 12 shows in a row tour. or 11, I guess, where we went to all these places, and I suddenly had to learn to pronounce all these city names in a language that just doesn't fit in my mouth very well. Well, I'm working on it. France has been amazingly kind to us over the years, so I cannot say one thing.
Voilà, METALXS, c'est terminé pour aujourd'hui. On se retrouve dans 15 jours pour un nouveau numéro avec toujours plus d'interviews, de surprises et de contenus inédits. Un immense merci pour votre fidélité et n'oubliez pas de prolonger l'expérience métal sur RIFFX.fr. Salut!